welcome back to the Wellness Check. Today I wanted to give you a glimpse into what it might be like to begin EMDR with an EMDR therapist. I like to make videos on what to expect because EMDR is so different than your normal traditional talk therapy. Many people, when they envision going to a therapist or a counselor, they envision sitting on one of these couches back here and talking for an hour and then going home, which can be very helpful and beneficial and great, but EMDR is so different. And a lot of people don't know what to expect. And it is such an amazing type of therapy that I feel everybody could benefit from it. But a lot of people don't know what it really entails and what the step-by-step process is. So today, this video is going to be about the beginning steps, readying and preparing yourself to begin EMDR if you are seeking therapy from an EMDR trained or certified therapist. Something that all of us EMDR therapists have in common is that we use an EMDR International Association approved protocol, and that consists of a couple questions that we use to ask you, the client, to help frame and focus what it is that we are working on. So if I know someone's coming in looking specifically for EMDR therapy, we might do a few things, a few sessions before actually getting into the EMDR part of it. And that's just to be really responsible. I don't know you very well yet. You don't know me very well yet. We kind of have to get that rapport going. Learn a little bit about your background, your history, what it is that you're seeking counseling for, and how EMDR can help. Sometimes that means getting like a little timeline going where we chronologically go through your lifespan and we say, okay, what are the high points here? What are some things that you can remember that have been overwhelming or stressful or bad or traumatic or whatever word you want to use to describe a negative impacting event? And we kind of gather information around that. Coming away from that incident or that experience, how are you feeling? What are the negative core beliefs associated with that, et cetera, et cetera. Now, the protocol is what I'm going to be talking about today. And the protocol, like I said, is just a worksheet that's from the EMDR International Association. It's the guideline and the template that we use to really zoom in and focus on the specifics of what it is that you want to focus on. So it could be anything from a single case incident, like maybe a motor vehicle accident. I do a lot of motor vehicle accident traumas. Maybe it's something chronic, like family of origin, childhood, attachments, relationships with parents. Maybe it's something really deep, like grief and loss or death, divorce. I mean, you name it. We can work on anything under the sun when it comes to utilizing EMDR. So here's the template. I'm going to go through what to expect, what the questions might feel like, so that when you go to your therapist for EMDR, you have an idea of what to expect and what's coming. So once your therapist and you get information about each other, just getting the background information and looking at the presenting issue and what you might really want to work on, we bring out the sheet of paper. And the sheet of paper begins to ask, basically in your own words and the client's own words, what is it that you want to focus on? What is it that we're doing EMDR on? Is it a car accident? Is it abuse? Is it a negative core belief that you're struggling with? And this is a really important step because you as the client get to use your own words and your own voice to begin to just kind of describe what the issue is, how you feel about it, and what your goal is on the other side. So after you start to just briefly explain, well, this is the thing I want to work on, then we go into the next question. And the next question is there a part of this that stands out as feeling like the worst? And we tend to use the language activating. So if you hear your EMDR therapist say activating, what that means is when you think about this said memory or experience, what does it feel like inside? Does your heart begin to race? Do your palms begin to get sweaty? Is it bringing up a whole bunch of other memories? And that's an activation scale. So now we're kind of zooming in a little bit further. So here's the overall target, the thing that we're working on. Now, is there a part of this that stands out as feeling like the heaviest, the worst, the darkest? And you as the client get to talk about, yeah, actually there is a worst part of this. And maybe it's a sentence or two describing what comes to mind when you think about this experience. Maybe it's like an image or a snapshot, a picture in your mind that's associated with this memory. Maybe it's a smell or a sound or whatever it is. We're really zooming in on, okay, what's the most activating part about this for you? Then we go into developing what your negative core belief is about this. So if you've seen any of my other videos, I'll tag the related ones down below in the link. You'll have already known, because you and your therapist will have worked on this previous, what your negative core beliefs are. Maybe it sounds something like, I'm in danger, or I should have known better. I should have done something. It's not safe to feel and express my emotions. I can't trust anyone, or I can't trust myself. The list goes on. And again, this is the framework. We've already gone through this together before we get to this point in EMDR. So now we're taking the target kind of umbrella core issue of what you want to work on. We're zooming into the most activating part of it. And now we're getting into, what does this experience say about you? What feels true about you having gone through this experience? Then the next thing we talk about is a positive cognition, a positive core belief. If you could think about anything else, a positive statement, something that you would desire to believe instead of this negative thing, what is it that you would like to think or believe? What is the positive thing? And what's really special about this is that you don't have to believe it to be true now. It's just a desire. So maybe if your negative core statement is, I'm in danger, right? You're hypervigilant, you're waiting for the next bad thing to happen, you're on the edge of your seat. Maybe a positive core belief could be, it's over, I'm safe now, or I can trust myself, etc., etc. So we begin to kind of dream about another statement that could eventually take place of the negative core belief that you do have about this experience. From there, we go into emotions. So when you think about everything that we've set up so far, what emotions are you feeling right now? Let's just check in real quick. Is there anxiety? Is there hopelessness? Let's really begin to use the right words to describe how you feel when you think about this memory. Once we get the emotions in, then we go to the next step. And here we begin to kind of gauge how believable the positive statement that you just made feels. And this just gives us an idea of, are we even in the ballpark of this feeling true to you right now at all? Or is this something that feels like it is not true and you desire to feel it, but it's not there at all? So going back to that example of, it's over, I'm safe now. Sure, that might be something you desire to feel, but on that scale, right, we're going to use a Likert scale here. How true does that feel? And what you're going to notice is through the EMDR process, that number beginning to increase and getting more and more believable. It might be a 0. I don't feel like that's believable at all. Or it could be somewhere in the middle. We don't know yet. But the goal is to use that scale as tangible, measurable evidence to see how far we are coming in the EMDR process. By the end of it, it's going to be all the way, totally, I believe that, through and through. I know it and I feel it. Okay? So once we're through with kind of getting a gauge on all of that, we've gotten the emotions, there is another scale, and this one is just to get a baseline for how it feels to bring this up at all. So now that we've got the target, we've got the general concept, we've got the worst part of this, we've got the negative core belief, the positive core belief, desire, we've got the emotions kind of laid out. We're just going to do another check-in and say, how activated do you feel about just thinking about it right now overall? And that'll give us a sense of where you are as well. So it's 0 to 10. 0 is nothing or neutral, and 10 is the most activated you could imagine. Where are you in this moment? Just thinking about it, bringing it up, and talking about it. So that's really important information for your therapist to help keep things kind of tolerable for you as a client. We want to make sure that if you're a 10 out of 10, we are doing our job to bring you down a few notches, especially before you leave the session, and to just maybe add additional grounding skills and resource skills before and after our sessions. The last question of this protocol is, where do you feel that in your body? So let's say you say, I'm a 7. Oh, it's pretty strong. I'm a 7. I'm an 8. Well, okay, where is that 8 popping up in your body? Where do you feel it? So people might say something like, oh, it's in my gut. It's just churning and gurgling. It's in my gut. Or maybe it's in my chest. I feel like there's a heavy weight on my chest. Maybe it's in your throat. Maybe you just feel really like the lump in your throat that you're about to cry. Maybe your heart rate's really high. Maybe you have sweaty palms. One of the greatest gifts that can come out of EMDR is beginning to understand how your body responds to stress, and being able to tie into those physical cues as well, because that's all part of communication. Your body's communicating with you. So EMDR is not just working through trauma and things like that. It's really being able to understand your body and what your body's telling you. So that's it as far as the protocol goes. Now that we've had all of the questions answered, we're ready to go into what's called the desensitization phase. That's the D part of EMDR. EMDR stands for eye movement, desensitization, and reprocessing. So the desensitization part is where we're really beginning to sort through the trauma, the upsetting, overwhelming, stressful situation. We're really on a neurological and cellular level working through that in a tolerable way, beginning to heal those wounds. The reprocessing part, the R in EMDR, is another phase after desensitization. So I'm going to do a whole other video on what is reprocessing. What else is there to do after we desensitize the negative, heavy stuff? Well, it's very important. So stay tuned for the next video on all things EMDR, what is reprocessing, why it's important, and what to expect whenever you're coming in for EMDR therapy. So I hope this video has helped just to kind of identify what some of these beginning steps will be like when you work with your therapist. You are not going to walk into your EMDR therapist's office and immediately begin trauma desensitization work. In my mind, that's just a really irresponsible thing to do, and we've just got to get a foundation and groundwork laid down for you and for the therapist too, to make sure that this is a really safe experience, that you as a client feel supported, and that we as therapists can understand like what your triggers are, what they feel like, and how we can help throughout the whole process. So now you know what to expect with the protocol set up, the series of questions that we're going to ask you, and how important it is for the framework of getting ready for the hard work to do together. So I hope that this helps. Thank you for checking in with your wellness, and I hope you have a good day.